When I was a kid, my dad had this obsession with Christmas lights that bordered on legendary. Every year, he went all out, determined to have the most dazzling display in the neighborhood. By 2010, he'd taken it to the next level. Timers synced the lights to flash in rhythm with Christmas songs, a trend that was just catching on back then. It was like our front yard had its own holiday concert, and my dad reveled in every second of it. That particular night, a light snow was falling, and the air was biting cold. Not exactly ideal for spectators. Still, a small crowd gathered, some stopping to take videos, others just standing in awe. My dad soaked it up like a kid on Christmas morning. Among the onlookers, two people stood out: a woman who left after a few minutes and a man who lingered. He stayed for what felt like forever, a faint smile on his face as he watched the lights dance. I could tell my dad loved the attention, especially from someone who seemed so genuinely captivated. Eventually, the snow started coming down harder, and my dad decided to call it a night. He literally pulled the plug, cutting the music and lights in one swift motion. The show was over, and the crowd dispersed. Upstairs, I went through my usual bedtime routine, brushing my teeth, grabbing a glass of water, but something nagged at me. I peeked out my window, curious to see how many houses still had their lights on. Only a few did, but what caught my eye was the man from earlier. He was still there, standing on the sidewalk, staring at our now dark house. I called my dad over, my voice tinged with unease. He joined me at the window, squinting into the night. "What's he doing?" I asked. My dad shrugged. Maybe he's waiting for the lights to come back on, or maybe he's just off. Either way, let's not worry about it. He'll leave eventually. He lowered the blinds, and I tried to shake off the weird feeling as I climbed into bed. But sleep didn't come. The soft patter of snow against the window, usually so soothing, did nothing to calm my racing thoughts. Curiosity got the better of me, and I crept back to the window, lifting the blind just enough to peek outside. The man was gone, but his footprints remained, cutting a path from the sidewalk across our front lawn. My stomach churned as I tiptoed downstairs to the front door. It had 3 small glass windows at the top, and against my better judgment, I looked through them. There he was, standing on the other side of the door, his face pressed close to the glass. His wide grin stretched the lines around his eyes, his mustache twitching slightly as he smiled. He wore an old-fashioned wool cap and a heavy black coat, but it was his eyes that froze me in place. Wild, unhinged, and piercing. I stumbled back, screaming, and the house erupted into chaos. My family came running, and my dad flung the door open, but the man was already gone. We saw him hurrying across the street, disappearing into the park. Without thinking, my dad, my brother, and I threw on our shoes and chased after him, ignoring the cold that stabbed at us like 1,000 needles. We followed his footprints into the park, but under the trees, the snow thinned and the trail vanished. Defeated and shivering, we turned back, the questions swirling in our heads. Was he just messing with us? Was he unwell? We'd never know. Fast forward to another snowy night, this time Christmas Eve. I was driving home after a grueling graveyard shift, the roads slick with ice. The streets were eerily empty, save for the occasional snowplow. As I approached a red light on a quiet service road, 2 cars sat motionless in front of me. The light turned green, but neither car moved. I'm not one to honk, but after half a minute, I gave a light tap on the horn. Nothing. The car in front of me didn't even bother honking at the lead car. Another 20 seconds passed, and I honked again, frustration creeping in. That's when I noticed him, a man on the sidewalk watching the scene unfold. I couldn't help but wonder what he was thinking. Probably the same thing I was. What's going on with the driver up front? But as I sat there, waiting, a chill ran down my spine that had nothing to do with the cold.